Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of ChillerNight Radio. I am your host, Brian Hogue. Thanks for joining us. ChillerNight Radio is the podcast version of my talk show, Chiller Chat. I have guests on the show to talk about the unexplained, mysteries beyond, paranormal activities and investigations, as well as horror movies, science fiction, comics, or any other format fitting the chiller theme. Tonight I'll have Brian Seech, the director of the Center For Cryptozoological Studies, with us. We'll talk about his organization and of the upcoming 2018 Butler Paranormal Conference in Lyndora, Pennsylvania. So if you have an interest in the paranormal, you won't want to miss it. We'll be back with guest Brian Seech right after this. Chiller Night, the Spirit of Halloween. A young reader's book written by Jennifer Sadler is the first of the Chiller Night series featuring Jack Shadow. 5 teenagers head out for a night of trick-or-treating, but lose themselves in a dimension of horror. Now they race against the clock to save their souls from the spirit of Halloween himself, Jack Shadow. This All Hallows Eve fantasy is a thrill a minute and the first in a new series of Halloween fun and fright. Take a step back in time through the veils between the living and the dead with Chiller Night, the Spirit of Halloween. Cover art by Rick Whitlow, illustrations by Scott Lubin. Chiller Night, the Spirit of Halloween is available to purchase on Amazon.com or get your copy at ChillerNightTheater.com. That's ChillerNightTheater.com. ChillerNightTheater.com. Watch Chiller Night Theater and Chiller Chat every Saturday night on Stream TV. Chiller programming airs every Saturday night beginning at 9 p.m. through 3 a.m. Watch Jack Shadow host classic and not so classic horror and science fiction films of yesteryear on Chiller Night Theater. Then Brian Hogue hosts Chiller Chat, the weekly talk show that discusses paranormal activities, horror and science fiction movies, and mysteries beyond. If you like horror, science fiction, and the paranormal, Stream TV is the channel to watch every Saturday night. Go to streammedia.tv, that's streammedia.tv, to connect to Stream TV's Roku channel. Or watch Chiller programming online on Chiller Night Theater's YouTube channel, or at ChillerNightTheater.com. That's ChillerNightTheater.com. ChillerNightTheater.com. If you'd like to be a guest on Chiller Night Radio or Chiller Chat, contact Brian Hogue at ChillerNightTheater.com. Just go to the contact page to submit your email. Topics include mysteries beyond, secret societies, horror and science fiction movies, paranormal investigations, and much more. To inquire about being a guest on the show, go to ChillerNightTheater.com to submit your request. Go to ChillerNightTheater.com. That's ChillerNightTheater.com. And we're back. Now we have Brian Seech on the line, the director of the Center for Cryptozoological Studies. Welcome, Brian.
How you going, Brian?
Real good. How about yourself?
Oh, doing great tonight. Doing great.
Good. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. Thank you very much.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, well, now the Center for Cryptozoological Studies, how long have you been around?
Well, actually, just to go back a little further than that, we actually started our first group, Center for Unexplained Events, in 1986, my wife, Terry, and I. And we still have that group today. In 2012, we started the Center for Cryptozoological Studies. We wanted to take all of our cryptid reports and try to get more cryptid reports to that group, as we weren't getting as much from the Center for Unexplained Events, because that group was basically like a big umbrella group. We researched everything from ghosts to UFOs and even creatures in that group. So it's been 2012 for the new group. Okay, so
you and your wife, you have been doing this since 1986.
Yeah, since 1986. We have a huge library downstairs. We collect old newspaper articles, magazines, books. We like to call it our S-Files. And it's just been great. We've been working with a lot of great people. Dr. Paul Johnson, he's the second longest running researcher in Pennsylvania. He's been doing it since the 70s. And we have a great group of people out there, former outdoorsmen, police, and we've just been having a great time doing our work.
Now, did you and your wife Terry, did you meet and you were already interested in these things separately? I mean, how did that start?
Yeah, we both had an interest. Myself, I grew up watching the 70s documentaries. What really got it started for me was a show called The Mysterious Monsters. It was on Bigfoot and the Yeti and the Loch Ness Monster. My wife, too, she was always interested in the, kind of phenomena. She watched In Search Of and things like that. So, yeah, we both had an interest, long before we met.
I used to love that show In Search Of. I watched that religiously every week. And
yeah, me too. They're supposed to actually bring it back with, I think it's, what's his name, Zachary, what's his last name? He played Spock on the new Star Trek. Zachary, I can't think of his last name right now, but he's going to actually bring it back, yeah.
Well, how fitting, because Leonard Nimoy was the host for the first one. That's a neat idea. That's pretty cool.
It is.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I used to watch that all the time. And then when I was in grade school was when I kind of developed my interest in things like that. Bigfoot and UFOs, Loch Ness Monster. I was reading everything I could about that stuff, the unexplained, and it just always intrigued me that there's something out there that we just don't know about. And we don't know if it's real. We don't know if it's, I don't know. There was just some captivating air of mystery about it all, Well, I guess there still is,
Yeah, I believe that there's, something, there's core mystery with all of the things that we research, whether it be Bigfoot or ghosts or UFOs. My wife and I and our group members, we think that there's enough there that if nothing else, we should be investigated.
Yeah.
Will we ever find answers? I seriously doubt it. Unless I would, happen to drive home and accidentally hit a Bigfoot and throw him on top of my car, like in Harry and the Hendersons. I don't think we'll ever find the proof. But if we should get a little piece of the puzzle, I think I'd be happy with that.
Yeah. Well, I was watching a show last night it's a documentary on Netflix, and it's just called Bigfoot. I could be wrong. I was half awake. But it really had some compelling video evidence on there. Now, I don't know the guy. I don't know his credibility, who one of the investigators on the show. But boy, it really made you think, like, wow, it's almost right there in the palm of our hand, whether this is a fact or not. He was showing some really convincing video footage on that documentary.
Yeah, and I think what maybe what the general public doesn't realize is there's a lot of researchers out there doing the Bigfoot ghost. They're doing it without any funding. They're doing it on their spare time in between their jobs. They're pouring their heart and soul out, trying to find out some of these mysteries. So I know the general public probably thinks a lot of us are crazy, but I think a lot of these people should be getting credit because they're in it to try to find out why people are seeing big creatures in the woods, why they're seeing strange lights overhead. I think people want answers and they're curious, and it's a great hobby, and it's a hobby for us. And it would be great to find answers, but maybe we're not supposed to find answers. There's always supposed to be that mystery in our lives, so it makes you think.
I've often told my wife Ava that there's part of me that almost hopes that we don't find it. We don't find that conclusive bit of evidence, because I like there's a fun or thrill or something. Maybe it's something more innate than that in the mind that's a little more interesting if we don't know.
Well, I agree. I agree with you. Yeah.
So that's my thought there. But and going back to what you said about people thinking that may think that you guys are crazy or something like that. You're always going to have that group. But you know what? I think less and less of that goes on. I think more and more people are actually saying, hey, wait a minute, there is something out there. How can there be this many people, with this many reports coming in and this many credible people for it to be nothing? You know what I mean?
Definitely. People from all walks of life are seeing strange things. Again, I'll generalize it. Seeing Bigfoot, seeing some of these winged entities, the dog man, whatever the entity or the creature may be.
Mm-hmm.
These people are coming forth, and the majority of them don't want their names out. Our group, Center for Cryptozoological Studies, we don't give out names. We'll talk about the reports, or we'll post a report. We won't post exact locations. We never post eyewitnesses' names because it's about the phenomena. And most people don't want their names out because people are going to think they're crazy. So, yeah, I do think that there's something to it.
Yeah. Now, over the years, either in your previous organization or your current one, what type of investigations do you do? Do you go out? Do you actually go out and investigate the field and where this, the phenomenon occurred, or do you just take the reports? I mean, what is it that you do?
We do try to get out as much as we can. There's this horrible 4-letter word called lights that you have to do in a job.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and then the W word. Work.
We do try to get out as much as we can.
Yeah.
We like to follow up on any report that we get, especially if it's a newer one. We like to go out. We like to talk to the eyewitness. We like to go to the exact location, even if it's an older report. Take pictures, try to get size measurements, and we also try to always hit up. Do hikes in the woods, go to places that have actually had sightings in the past, and just to, double recheck on them. And then we still take the reports, and we're always doing archive work. Getting old newspaper clippings and things like that, and also, networking with a bunch of other great researchers. And so it's almost a constant thing, we're always doing something, even if we're not exactly out in the field. So, but we do get out there.
Now, the Center for Cryptozoological Studies, do you just take reports of that, or let's say you get a report of a UFO? Do you take that and run with that, or do you refer that to another organization that you know?
Well, we still do the UFO and the paranormal research. We do that underneath our Q umbrella, Center for Unexplained Events.
Gotcha.
So that group still is in existence. So if we get our UFO report, we'll try to look into it. And my wife and I, we're both former MUFON members. My wife was a former PA state section director in MUFON, and I was a field investigator. So we don't get that many UFO reports. But one of the things we've done a decent amount of, and we're doing more, is paranormal research, looking into haunted places, haunted roads, and things like that. So, and if there's something that we think maybe we haven't heard about, we'll go to another group and, hey, can you help us with this, or give us some information and back up. We think it's important to always network and research with other groups, because we're always learning. We're even learning since 1986. You always have to keep an open mind, listen to other people, because one person doesn't know everything. So we each have a little piece of the puzzle. Is how we see it.
Right. Well, Brian, we're going to talk some more with you. We're going to take a break for just a couple minutes, and when we come back, we'll talk with Brian Seech, the director of the Center for Cryptozoological Studies. Stick around.
Chiller Night, The Spirit of Halloween, a young reader's book written by Jennifer Sadler, is the first of the Chiller Night series featuring Jack Shadow. 5 teenagers head out for a night of trick-or-treating, but lose themselves in a dimension of horror. Now they race against the clock to save their souls from the spirit of Halloween himself, Jack Shadow. This All Hallows Eve fantasy is a thrill a minute, and the first in a new series of Halloween fun and fright. Take a step back in time through the veils between the living and the dead with Chiller Night, The Spirit of Halloween. Cover art by Rick Whitlow. Illustrations by Scott Lubin. Chiller Night, The Spirit of Halloween is available to purchase on Amazon.com or get your copy at ChillerNightTheater.com. That's ChillerNightTheater.com. ChillerNightTheater.com. Watch Chiller Night Theater and Chiller Chat every Saturday night on Stream TV. Chiller programming airs every Saturday night beginning at 9 p.m. through 3 a.m. Watch Jack Shadow host classic and not so classic horror and science fiction films of yesteryear on Chiller Night Theater. Then Brian Hogue hosts Chiller Chat, the weekly talk show that discusses paranormal activities, horror and science fiction movies, and mysteries beyond. If you like horror, science fiction, and the paranormal, Stream TV is the channel to watch every Saturday night. Go to streammedia.tv, that's streammedia.tv, to connect to Stream TV's Roku channel. Or watch Chiller programming online on ChillerNight Theater's YouTube channel, or at ChillerNightTheater.com. That's ChillerNightTheater.com. ChillerNightTheater.com. If you'd like to be a guest on Chiller Night Radio or Chiller Chat, contact Brian Hogue at ChillerNightTheater.com. Just go to the contact page to submit your email. Topics include mysteries beyond, secret societies, horror and science fiction movies, paranormal investigations, and much more. To inquire about being a guest on the show, go to ChillerNightTheater.com to submit your request. Go to ChillerNightTheater.com. That's ChillerNightTheater.com.
And we're back again with Brian Seech, director of the Center for Cryptozoological Studies. Brian, now you're putting together the 2018 Butler Paranormal Conference, right? Are you hosting that?
We're actually the co-sponsors of the event. A gentleman who you've met by the name of Dan Hagman and his group, Boru, they actually run it. We're the co-sponsors of the event, which is now in its 11th year, and it's coming up on April 28th.
Okay, that's okay. Now that's going to be in Lyndora, Pennsylvania, correct?
Yeah, it's at the Tanglewood Senior Center.
Okay.
In Butler County, Lyndora, Butler County.
And you've been doing this. This is the 11th.
Yeah, we're pretty proud of the event. It's actually, like you said, it's our 11th year, and we've had a lot of great guests over the years. We have a great lineup again this year. We have over 48 vendor tables. We have the Men in Black coming. It's just a great time. I know I'm going to see you there, so I'm looking forward to meeting you. It's just a great fun time. A bunch of great people. Just getting together and trying to investigate the mysteries of the world.
Right. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be there. I can't wait to be there and to meet you and your wife and many others who are share an interest in the paranormal and the unexplained and the investigations. Now, if somebody is interested in going to the paranormal conference, it's open to the public, correct? To just anybody.
Yes. Like we said, it is at the Tanglewood Senior Center in Lyndora, PA. The event runs from 10 a.m. until 7 p.m. Admission at the door is only $10.
Okay.
This year we have 5 great speakers, and I'll just talk about them real quick. We have Patty Wilson. She's going to be talking about paranormal forensics. It's kind of a new look, a new way to research ghosts, and I can't wait to hear that.
I actually have one of her books, Brian.
Yeah, we nicknamed the Ghost Lady of PA. She's fantastic. You're gonna love to meet her and talk with her.
I can't wait to meet her.
She
Yeah.
starts at 11:30.
Okay.
Then we have Rick Fisher, and we're honored to have Rick. Rick doesn't do that many public appearances on this side of the state. He's going to be talking about the Carbondale UFO lantern incident and the Harrisburg Flat, the 67 Harrisburg Flat. He'll be on 1 to 2. Then we have the Psychic Vincent sisters. They're well-renowned psychic mediums. They've been on the Travel Channel and some documentaries on TV. They actually work with the police, helping unsolved cases. They're going on at 2:30. And then we have our friend Steve Ward. He's from Michigan. He's going to be talking about high strangeness cases, Mothman, Bigfoot, and things like that. He's on 4 to 5. And then last we have our friend Leah Madden. She's going to be talking on vampires from 5:30 to 6. So it's just going to be a great lineup all the way around.
On vampires. Now that's something that I don't hear about in when I think about like the UFO and Bigfoot investigations. I never hear of anybody talking about vampires. I'll be really interested to hear that because of obviously my interest in the horror, with the chiller theme and all that. So that'll be really interesting.
Oh yeah, she would be great to get on the show. Also, she's been researching it, I believe, over 38 years. Vampires and vampiric lore. It's something a lot of people don't talk about, but I guess you could call her a vampirologist.
A vampire? Sure, why not?
I really enjoyed meeting her.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm really interested in meeting her, and I definitely want to hear that. Okay, so the 2018 Butler Paranormal Conference, that's at 10 Austin Avenue in Lyndora, Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and that begins at, you say at 10 a.m. until 7
Yeah,
p.m.?
10 a.m. and then it starts at 11, yeah. Doors open at 10 for the public.
Gotcha. Okay. And it sounds like you got a great group of guests, speakers that are going to be there, as well as vendors. Didn't you say like 45 to 50 vendors or something like that?
About 48 vendor tables. There'll be psychic readers. There'll be jewelry. There'll be Bigfoot. There'll be ghosts, UFOs, artists, writers, anything you can think of in jewelry. Anything you can think of in like the paranormal unknown realm. It's the biggest vendor fair in Pennsylvania. Actually, the paranormal vendor fair. Also, yeah.
Is that right? Wow. So if any of our audience has any interest in the paranormal and UFOs and Bigfoot and the unexplained, make sure you make it out to the Butler Paranormal Conference in Lyndora, Pennsylvania. It's going to be Saturday, April 28th. So if anybody has any questions, or how can they get in touch and look this up online if someone wants to go online and look this information up, Brian?
Well, we do have a Facebook page, and it's under the 11th Annual Butler Paranormal Conference. And,
okay.
You go there, all the information's there, or you can go to on Facebook, Center for Unexplained Events. We have everything on there also. Or if you need to, you can always contact me through Facebook. Brian Seech or Dan Hegman. So there's plenty of ways that we've been sharing it a lot. So it's really out there now. So we sent some press releases out. So hopefully it'll be in some of the local papers in about a week.
Oh, that's great. I know everybody has Facebook. I actually do most of my marketing and announcements on Facebook. So if you have Facebook, make sure that you and we'll have this information on screen too for our viewers.
Okay,
the ones who are watching it. Now the ones who are listening to it on the podcast. Could you repeat that again? It's the Butler Paranormal Conference on Facebook, correct?
You would just type in the 11th Annual Butler Paranormal Conference, and it comes up. So, and it gives you all the pertinent information, dates, times, cost. Yeah. Okay,
great. Now, Brian, an interesting thing that you had told me not too long ago was you and your wife were called, you and Terry were called the Mulder and Scully of Beaver County. Is that correct?
Yeah. It was always kind of like a little joke between, my wife and ourselves. And 2 years ago, we got the Pittsburgh City Paper. You've probably heard of that.
Yes.
They contacted us. They went on our website and they wanted to come down. So an artist came down, and she actually drew us in a cartoon. So we actually are cartoon characters now, which is kind of funny. And we told, hey, people call us the Mulder and Scully Beaver County, and they put it in the newspaper in the cartoon. So we kind of like always joke, hey, we were Mulder and Scully before there was Mulder and Scully. So it's kind of a fun little thing.
That's funny. When you say Mulder and Scully, who was the guy who made Chris Carter? Wasn't he the creator of the X-Files?
Yes.
Okay. Now he was inspired by the show The Night Stalker with Darren McGavin.
Oh, I love Kolchak. One of my
my gosh, I love that show. That's another one like In Search of back in the '70s that I used to watch real regularly. And in fact, I just put that in the other night. I have the pilot episode on DVD. So I was watching that. But
I just went back myself about a month ago, and I watched The Night Stalker and The Night Strangler, both of the movies on YouTube. So I enjoyed them.
Yeah, I love stuff like that. Like I said, I've had this interest since I was a little kid. I mean, I'm talking 6, 7 years old. I was reading whatever I could get my hands on about this stuff. If we would have had the internet back then, I'm sure I would have never got off the computer. I was just constantly looking this up. That and you know, of course, the monsters. I have a big interest in monsters and horror. Other, you know, that's kind of what I do with the hosted horror show, and my love and passion for chiller theater when I was growing up. And,
I love that. I grew up watching that because I still am a big sci-fi and monster geek. I call myself. You know, I'm a big Marvel geek. I go to all the movies. One of my favorites, I think we talked about before, is Godzilla. And
Godzilla.
You know,
Yes.
still the king of monsters.
I love the. My favorite Godzilla movie is the first one, the original.
Is it? Mine is Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. I always thought that was my favorite. Still
Okay.
is.
Yeah, I've just always loved Godzilla. I was telling you earlier too, before we taped this tonight, that I think it was like every Saturday when I was growing up, there was a Godzilla movie on TV, and I had to watch Godzilla. I just loved Godzilla. And then you
I love Godzilla and all the other Japanese monsters. You know, Rodan, Mothra, War of the Gargantuars. There was a movie. There's all kinds.
Oh yeah. I remember that, and I told you for Chiller Night Theater, our companion show, it's on Saturday nights. I'll have to play one of the Gamera movies. The other ones, the Godzillas are all, you know. I have to have a certain license to play those. But there is one, maybe more of the Gamera movies that I'll just have to play on Chiller Night Theater.
Yeah, Gamera were funny. They were even more of a lower budget than Godzilla, but I enjoyed them as a kid. You know, you have to kind of, you know, you suspend belief and just have a good time when you watch those movies.
Yeah, well, especially, you know, the big turtle-looking, you know, monstrosity wrecking the cities and
yeah, shooting fire out of it and twirling around. Yeah, I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Only in monster movies, right?
Only, yeah. I love it, and you know, I think anybody who loves the horror movies and science fiction like that, you would think would have some interest in paranormal. And I know, you know, one's completely fake and you know make believe for the movies and stuff with the monsters, but the other, we are finding out more and more that might be a lot more part of our reality than people had ever imagined. So, you know, with the UFOs and
agree.
Bigfoot.
Like the one phenomenon you could take, you know, is the old the werewolf on TV. You know, person gets bit by a wolf, turns into a werewolf. Well, there's starting to be, you know, in the last 15 or so years, people are reporting these upright, canid-like creatures that look like upright walking wolves. They call them dogman.
Mm-hmm.
We've investigated some cases like that here in Pennsylvania, over into Ohio. I mean, you know, I'll be the first to say it doesn't make any sense, but people are seeing these upright canid creatures that they're calling dogmen instead of werewolves. But if you would put a drawing of a dogman, it looks like an old movie werewolf. I mean, it is something that you do shake your head and think, come on, that can't be real, can it? But according to some of the people who see it, they believe these things are real.
There have been, you know, speaking of that, the dogman and the werewolf lycanthropy and all that. I know there have been references like Nebuchadnezzar in the Bible. You know, there have been references to that, and I don't know if that's exactly what they're talking about with the shape shifting and all this. But I know when I was in college in anthropology and so forth, we did study, you know, with the old the Indian legend and the lore used to talk quite a bit about the shape shifting, the ability to turn into a wolf or you know, some type of animal. So you know, I don't know. You know, none of us have all the answers, I guess. So, but you know, it's people like you and your wife and your organizations and Daniel Hagman who go out there and look, and people like Stan Gordon as well. I know you guys know Stan Gordon, so. You know, some people put a ton of work into investigating these things, and you know what? I hope they just find more and more answers for us.
Yeah, I mean, you know, all you can do is try. Even, you know, you want to talk about the shape-shifting part of it. We were at a Bigfoot meeting in Ohio. It was probably about 2 years ago. And I had mentioned to the people, I just gave a quick little 5-minute thing about some of our research, and the one kid came up to me and said, you know, the shapeshifters are real. And I looked at him, and he says, yeah, he goes, I'll tell you this once. He says, it was in southern Ohio. He claimed that, his father, who was, Native American, that, no, sorry, it was his grandfather who was Native American, that they actually went out into a field, in the middle of the night, and he claimed he saw his grandfather actually physically change into what would look like a giant wolf.
Really?
The gentleman said, he says, I can't give any more specifics, things like that. But what I'm telling you is true. So, do I believe him? I mean, he looked seriously. I tried to get his number and contact him, and I gave him my card. He never contacted me. I kind of believe it's physically impossible for a person to actually change into a werewolf, but some people put forth, well, maybe, these shapeshifters are somehow able to, through the power of suggestion, make you think that they're actually changing into a werewolf or into another animal, when in fact they're really not. It's more of a mind thing. So, who am I to say that it does or it doesn't exist at this point? That's the only report that I ever got on that about a shapeshifter. So, who's to say?
Right. Wow. That would be an interesting conversation.
I'm not saying that I either believe or disbelieve that. I'm just saying, his particular case, I didn't get any more information. We actually wanted to meet with him and go out there and, maybe hopefully see his grandfather turn into that. But, knowing our luck, it could have, maybe he was setting us up to be eaten by a pack of werewolves. It would have made a good sci-fi movie, I guess.
Right. Yeah, lure you out there to become dinner. So, well, Brian, I tell you what, this has been great having you on the show tonight. And I talked to you earlier, and before we start taping, and I said you'll be amazed how quickly time flies. And I could sit here and, quite truthfully, I could sit here and talk all night with you about this stuff because it's so interesting. And whether it be
if you ever get a chance, we're not that far from you in Beaver. We live in Hopewell, Beaver County. Feel free to come down. We'll show you the library, and you'll be amazed at the amount of stuff that we have down there.
Well, I'll take you up on that. I would love to do that, and we'll have you and your wife up as well. And can't wait to meet you. And then we'll show you the. You wanted to see the set, the TV set for Chiller Night Theater.
I am so looking forward to coming up there. You don't know.
Well, we'll definitely make those arrangements. So. Brian, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. And if anyone has anything to report, any unexplained phenomenon, any UFO sightings, Bigfoot sightings, how would they get in touch with you once again?
Probably the easiest way would be to message me on Facebook, either underneath my homepage of Brian Seech at the SEECH, or go to the Center for Cryptozoological Studies and message me through there. That'd probably be the easiest and best. Or you can email me at bseech.com, bseech@comcast.net. Sorry.
Okay, great.
And we will get back to you. And we do want to hear anyone's stories of everything from haunted locations, haunted roads, UFO sightings, especially any of these creature sightings or out-of-place animals. Your names will never be out there. All names are kept confidential. So we hope we can hear from people.
Okay, great. Outstanding. Brian Seech, the director for the Center of Cryptozoological Studies. Thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
Oh, no problem. I had a great time. It was an honor to be on. I thank you.
All right, thank you. And thank you for joining us for another night of Chiller Night Radio. Join us next week, and we'll see you later.